What if the anxiety you feel right now is not a spiritual failure, but proof that you have never been taught the frequency Jesus actually used? Most people spend their entire lives trying to manage fear. They pray harder, breathe deeper, think positively, and yet the anxiety comes back. It always comes back. Why? Because they are using the wrong tools. Because what Jesus actually said in the language he spoke, in the sounds he chose, has been obscured for centuries. There is one word, a single Aramaic word that Jesus carried in his mouth like a living frequency. A word that was not just spoken. It was transmitted. It was a vibration that moved through the air and rearranged something inside the people who received it. That word is SHLAMA, not the translated version, not the diluted version, the original. The way Jesus breathed it, the way it was felt before it was ever written down. And when you understand what SHLAMA actually means, not just peace, but wholeness, completion, the total absence of fragmentation, everything you thought you knew about anxiety will begin to collapse. Because the fear you carry is not the truth about you. It is the result of separation from a frequency that was always meant to be yours. In this video, you are going to receive that frequency. You are going to understand where your anxiety actually comes from and what Jesus knew about it that no modern self-help system has ever touched. And at the end, I will give you the complete transformation protocol, the Aramaic words exactly as they were spoken, with their full meaning, intention, and practice. Stay until the end. What is coming will change the way you carry yourself through every tomorrow. The word that was never just a word, long before Jesus stood on the hillside and said, "Do not be anxious about tomorrow." He was already living inside a language that made anxiety structurally impossible. Aramaic is not a language, the way English is a language. In Aramaic, a word is not an arbitrary symbol assigned to a concept. A word is a vibration that carries the full weight of its meaning. The sound and the reality it names are not separate things. They are the same thing, expressed in two different dimensions. When Jesus said SHLAMA, and he said it constantly, not only as a greeting but as a transmission, he was not offering a concept. He was offering an actual state of being, a frequency, something the body could receive before the mind could process it. The root of SHLAMA in Aramaic is the verb shlam, which means to be whole, to be complete, to lack nothing. Not the peace that comes after conflict resolves, not the quiet after the storm passes, but the kind of wholeness that existed before the storm was ever possible. This distinction matters enormously, because the anxiety you feel is not caused by your circumstances. It is caused by the sensation of fragmentation, the felt experience that something essential is missing, that you are incomplete, that tomorrow holds a threat your present self cannot survive. Jesus understood this at the root level. He did not try to reassure people that tomorrow would be fine. He did not offer probability statistics or logical arguments. He offered SHLAMA, the frequency of wholeness itself, and trusted that when a person received it fully, anxiety had nowhere left to live. This is the first layer of what you are about to receive. And the next layer goes even deeper into why Jesus said what he said about tomorrow specifically, and what he knew that most teachers have never explained. Why Jesus spoke directly to tomorrow. There is a moment in the teachings of Jesus that is often quoted and almost never understood. In Matthew 6:34, he does not say, "Do not worry," in general. He says, "Do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will take care of itself." This is a surgical statement. Jesus was not speaking about anxiety as a vague emotional state. He was identifying the precise mechanism that creates human suffering, the mental projection of the self into a future moment that does not yet exist. In Aramaic culture and cosmology, time is not a straight line. It is not past, present, and future arrayed like beads on a string. Time in the Aramaic understanding is more like a living field, and the only real point of contact with that field is the present moment. Tomorrow, in that framework, is not a place you travel to. It is a reality that assembles itself based on the frequency you carry today. When Jesus said tomorrow will take care of itself, he was revealing something about the nature of reality that modern physics is only beginning to confirm. The future is not fixed. It is responsive. And what it responds to is not your effort, your planning, or your fear. It responds to your frequency. This is why SHLAMA is not a passive word. It is not surrender. It is not resignation. SHLAMA is an active transmission of wholeness into the present moment, which then ripples forward into what tomorrow becomes. The people who received this teaching from Jesus directly did not walk away. They walked away transformed, because they understood that their anxiety was not protecting them from the future, it was actively shaping a worse one. The Aramaic is not just a language, it is a sacred vibration. To ensure you capture every nuance of the frequency that Jesus used, I have prepared a visual pronunciation guide that will appear on your screen. Observe the symbols and the phonetics as we hear the sound, so that your intention is in perfect harmony with the word. The words of Jesus in Aramaic open different pathways back to divine alignment. Each one represents a frequency capable of restoring something fragmented in human consciousness. Understanding these frequencies is the first step, but mastering their vibration in your daily life is where the true miracle happens. To help you embody each frequency with precision, I created a collection of 5 sacred study guides, each one dedicated to a specific Aramaic declaration and its practice. Inside, you will find the correct pronunciation, guided meditations, and daily activation rituals. The link is pinned in the comments. Your deeper transformation begins there. The anatomy of fear and what SHLAMA dissolves. To truly understand why SHLAMA works, you need to understand what fear actually is at its most fundamental level. Not psychologically, spiritually. In the Aramaic worldview that Jesus inhabited, feared, what the texts call dela, was understood as the direct experience of disconnection from the source of being. It was not an emotion in the modern sense. It was a signal, a report from the nervous system that the self had lost contact with the ground of its own existence. This is why fear feels so total when it strikes. It is not telling you that a specific thing is wrong. It is telling you that the connection has been lost. And when connection is lost, the mind immediately begins to construct scenarios about what might happen next, because it no longer trusts the present moment to hold. Anxiety is therefore not irrational. It is the mind doing its best to protect a self it believes has become vulnerable. The problem is that the protection strategy, projection into an imagined future, makes the disconnection worse, not better. You cannot think your way back into wholeness. You can only receive it. This is precisely what SHLAMA was designed to deliver. Not to argue with the anxious mind, not to suppress the fear response, but to re-establish contact with the field of wholeness that the fear temporarily interrupted. Jesus was not a teacher of techniques. He was a transmitter of states, and SHLAMA was not something he invented. It was something he inhabited so completely that others caught it in his presence. The word was a carrier wave for a reality he was already living. That reality is available to you right now, and the next chapter will show you the specific moment in human experience where SHLAMA must be applied, because not all moments of fear are the same, and Jesus knew exactly which one he was addressing. The moment SHLAMA was built for. There is a specific quality of anxiety that SHLAMA was designed to meet, not the fear that arises in the middle of a crisis, not the immediate physical alarm of danger in the present moment. Those responses serve a function, and Jesus never dismissed them. SHLAMA speaks to a different kind of fear entirely. The anticipatory dread that lives in the space between now and what has not yet happened. The 3 a.m. fear, the chronic low-grade hum of worry about finances, about relationships, about health, about futures that have not yet been written. This is the fear Jesus identified in Matthew with perfect precision. Tomorrow's anxiety carried into today, the rehearsal of suffering for events that may never arrive. And this particular form of fear is uniquely destructive, not because of what it tells you, but because of what it costs you while it runs. When you carry tomorrow's fear today, you are spending today's wholeness on a problem that does not yet exist. You arrive at the actual moment of challenge already depleted, already fragmented, already separated from the very resource SHLAMA that could have carried you through it. Jesus was not speaking abstractly when he said, "Consider the birds of the air." He was pointing to a direct example of creatures that operate entirely in the frequency of SHLAMA, not because they have no needs, but because they meet each moment with full presence, drawing on what is available now rather than depleting themselves in anticipation of what might be needed later. This is the spiritual technology hidden inside that teaching, and the reason Jesus encoded it in Aramaic, in the specific vibration of SHLAMA, is that a concept alone cannot restore a frequency. Only frequency can restore frequency. What comes next is the most important part of everything you have heard today. Stay with me, because this is where teaching becomes practice, and practice becomes transformation. If something in you is shifting as you receive this teaching, trust that movement. It is your original nature recognizing itself. Each Aramaic frequency carries a practice, and I built sacred study guides to walk you through every one: pronunciation, meditation, and daily ritual. The link is pinned in the comments. When SHLAMA meets silence, the point of nitrogen monoxide return, there is a moment that every person who has ever encountered a true spiritual teaching eventually reaches. It is the moment when you stop analyzing the teaching and start receiving it. For most people, that moment never arrives. Not because they are not sincere, but because they have been trained to relate to spiritual teachings the same way they relate to information, as something to be understood, evaluated, and stored. But SHLAMA does not operate in that register. SHLAMA operates in the register of direct transmission. It bypasses the analytical mind, not because the mind is bad, but because the mind is not the entry point for this frequency. The body is the entry point. The breath is the entry point, the moment of full presence where past and future collapse into the single point of now is the entry point. This is why Jesus always combined his teachings with direct presence. He did not send letters. He did not publish manuscripts. He stood in front of human beings and transmitted because he knew that the frequency had to be received in a living body, in a living moment, for it to take root. You are in that living moment right now. Whatever brought you to this video, whatever anxiety or uncertainty or restlessness was sitting in your chest when you pressed play, it brought you here. And here is where SHLAMA can do what no amount of intellectual understanding could ever accomplish. The practice you are about to receive is not complicated. It was designed by the same intelligence that created the universe, which means it was designed to work through simplicity, not complexity, through presence, not effort, through reception, not achievement. You do not need to earn SHLAMA. You were never separated from it by anything you did. You were only separated from it by a frequency you were taught. A frequency of fear that was handed down through generations who did not know what Jesus knew. Now you know. And knowing changes everything, but only if what you know becomes what you embody. The transformation protocol is the bridge between knowledge and embodiment. Let us cross it together. Transformation protocol. Before we close, I want to give you something few have ever received. What I am about to share is not information. It is a living transmission that has been carried for centuries inside the sounds of a language Jesus spoke every day of his life. In Aramaic, sound and meaning are inseparable. A word does not describe a reality. It summons it. The frequency of the sound is the first movement of the thing it names. This is why the pronunciation of each word will appear on your screen as you receive it, not so you can study it, but so you can align your intention with its full vibration. Observe the screen now. This is not about perfection. It is about resonance. Your inner agreement with what the word carries. Look at the word now appearing on your screen. SHLAMA, the word Jesus used to transmit wholeness. In Aramaic, SHLAMA does not mean peace as the absence of conflict. It means the fullness that exists before conflict was ever possible. The complete and unbroken state of a being that lacks nothing, fears nothing, needs to become nothing other than what it already is. For those who receive this word from Jesus directly, it did not arrive as a concept. It arrived as a physical sensation, a settling, a returning, as if something that had been vibrating at the wrong frequency suddenly found its original pitch. You use SHLAMA in the moments when tomorrow begins to crowd the present, when the anxious mind starts building scenarios, when dread enters without a name, when the body tightens around a fear it cannot locate. This is exactly when you bring SHLAMA to the surface, not as a prayer for peace you do not have, but as a declaration of the wholeness that was never taken from you. Now observe the second word on your screen, SHLAMA. Spoken now not as a single word, but as an intentional breath carried into the body. This second transmission is the same word, received from a deeper place, because SHLAMA has layers. The first time you receive it, the mind acknowledges it. The second time, the body begins to remember. The third time, Something older than thought recognizes it as home. The intention you bring to this word is not a request. It is a recognition. You are not asking for peace. You are acknowledging the peace that underlies every moment of your existence, including the anxious ones, including the frightened ones, including the ones where tomorrow felt impossible. Now observe both words together on your screen. SHLAMA, breathe. SHLAMA, let there be one full breath between each transmission. Your intention is simply this: I return to wholeness. I was never truly separated. I return now. Repeat this sequence 3 times morning, before sleep, and in any moment when tomorrow begins to pull you out of today. You do not need silence, though silence helps. You do not need perfection, though presence deepens it. You only need the willingness to receive what Jesus always intended you to carry. If these words touched something real in you today, if something shifted, come to the comments right now and leave the word transformation. That single word tells me the frequency landed, and it opens the door for what comes next. Did you feel something shift today? Did these words touch something deeper in you? When the light moves, it needs a path. Discover our complete collection of 4 sacred study guides created to carry your transformation beyond this moment, with correct pronunciation, guided meditations, and daily activation rituals for each Aramaic word. The link is pinned in the comments. Your next step is waiting. We are just beginning to uncover this ancient power. In our next video, I will reveal even deeper Aramaic codes that unlock a spiritual authority you have never imagined. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you do not miss what is coming right now. Before you close this video, subscribe to this channel. Every week, we go deeper into the ancient frequency codes that were always meant to be yours.